So, good evening, Jody, Tin. Welcome to Rockna. Thanks for taking the time to be here. Right, before we go into discussing and finding out more about Empire of the Ants, which is the project you both collaborate on, perhaps it's worth going into the individual backgrounds. The both of you have been working in music for a while on different projects along the way before meeting up. It might be worth going into some information. Jody, let's start with you.
Well, it's been a few years, and obviously it started out from a passion to be in bands and do gigs and tour and record and produce a sound right back to teenage years, and then obviously through time, the pressures of work tend to dictate when you can spend that kind of time, making music and promoting it and marketing it. So, yeah, it's been a kind of resurgence or a renaissance, if you like,
You mean with this project, obviously?
Yes,
but
yeah.
I'm going back. I mean, before all this, there was obviously a lot of activity that you were involved in bands in Malta and England as well.
Yes,
for quite a while as well.
Well, it goes back to the 80s, and you get involved in music magazines. Like I was involved in Far Out, so even from those days, it was as a music fan of what bands were doing locally and what bands were doing internationally. It was just a joy and a privilege to be able to meet some really talented musicians along the way and cut some really nice tunes and record albums in different places. Both here in Malta and London and Scotland, and it's as I say, it's been nice to come back to everything that's involved in the creation and production of songs that require lyrics and guitars and bass lines and drums and composition, which is what Tin puts together. And in that way, he would formulate ideas and send them to me.
Before you go further, because we're getting into the Empire of the Ants period now.
Yeah.
Before we go there, Tin, something about your musical background. Like, when did you first get involved in music and your first band activity?
Oh yeah. Well, I suppose I started playing the guitar when I was 10, and I bought a massive keyboard. So I was doing sort of multi-instruments at the time. And this goes through school, and you always find people who are interested in similar sort of things, and they're generally people who are away from the normal people. So you end up being in the corner with the strange, weird people.
So there was always that inclination for something that's not the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, always hiding away from as you say, the norm. And so I had school bands that never really gigged, to be honest. We were just sort of bedroom bands or garage bands, if you like. And then when I left school, I met up with Julia, who's my wife now. And we got together with my brother, and we had a little band going for a little while called Opus Fluke. And we just sort of practiced in our flat in South London. Southwest London, Southeast London actually, and we sort of practiced, but we never gigged. There was always we're going to do a gig, but we must get a drummer, and we never found a drummer. And then I've always just written music. I've always had a 4-track. I've always just played, recorded whatever I play, and then think,
so it evolved from being in bands and all these different projects into something that you could actually be self-sufficient and do for yourself.
I suppose so. I mean, my wife's a fantastic singer and a superb songwriter.
So that was handy.
And a guitarist, and her dad is a guitar maker.
Yes.
So such a rich vein of inspiration there. I fell into this thing, and it was it just exploded into playing with Julia and learning different things from Julia, and Julia learning from me, and it was we were a bit of a duo for quite a long time, playing together. And then when Opus Fluke finally demised, it was because we'd met up with 2 other players, a guitarist and a drummer, who used to play with Jody, Billy and Malcolm. and then we formed a band called Muse's Fluke, and we played quite a few gigs, and we just went around and played, and I moved from guitar onto bass, and it was just it was really good for a long time. There was a lot of chemistry in the band.